We're back with another isolation conversation, and I'm joined by the SIUE Cougars Assistant Athletic Director for High Performance. That's Mark Jamison. And Mark, I've run out of ways to describe kind of the times that we're living in. It's unique, it's unprecedented, it's surreal. All of those apply to what we're going through
Oh yeah, for sure.
now. For your position, I know obviously it is one that at least our conventional thought says you have to see the student athlete in person every day or at regular intervals, all those kind of things. So you and your staff has had to adjust immediately and very quickly.
Oh yeah, and I think that's what we're coming to find out. And we're busy talking to so many different universities right now because everyone's just okay. What are you doing? What are you doing? How are you, accomplishing this? How are you staying connected? Our main role is, from a strength and conditioning standpoint, to build robustness. So obviously, get the athletes, put in the physically the most advantageous position to succeed in practice and in their sport. But at the end of the day, our main priority, our main job is their health and wellness, whether they're on campus or they're not. So it's from a summer standpoint, with the exception of basketballs and things like that, and kids that still live on campus, we're kind of used to the tele coaching or whatever it is that we're currently having to do. Where we send out a lot of programs and we have to fit those programs to each circumstance for each athlete, because a lot of them, some of them have nice gyms in their houses they can train at. Some of them have a lot of open space or access to flat grass or track area. Some of them live in a city where there's access to nothing right now. So they're working on like a 4x4 foot grid. It's hard to accomplish things. So a lot of it's just being in constant communication with the student athlete. Hey, what do you have access to? What can you do right now? And then let's get creative, because we got to make sure we're obviously still maintaining your health and wellness. And if we do nothing for the next, few weeks or months or whatever it is, you're going to come back in a state that's, going to put you at risk. And our biggest job right now is to make sure when you come back on campus, as soon as we can hopefully get you back, that you're in the most advantageous position again to succeed with whatever it is that we put you into when you come back on campus.
How about those student athletes that may be dealing with an injury or recovery? What are you able to do, or what are you kind of telling those student athletes?
The athletic training staff has been awesome from that standpoint. We use Coach Me Plus as our athlete monitoring software, so it's a pretty interactive, athlete monitoring dashboard where the student athletes fill out daily wellness questionnaires. That's where we would track workloads and things like that from practice and what we're doing in strength and conditioning. That's also where they were already doing their rehab programs, and all those rehab programs came with videos. So they already have video embedded rehab programs for the student athletes. They're used to the software, so they know how to pull the workout up, check off each set and rep that they do, see the videos. You can communicate through that. And then there's also been a lot of, which has been great kind of in both of our fields from strength and conditioning and athletic training, a lot of free resources right now. So a lot of, these tech companies that we work with are putting out, even more advanced tele-rehab services. So our trainers have been using some of the tele-rehab services that allow you to watch in real time what those student athletes are doing. Because it's difficult because we work off of a lot of landmarks or exit criteria in terms of, okay, you've demonstrated the ability to do X, Y, and Z from where you were currently at. And you kind of got to go back to working off of timelines, when you don't have access to that. Well, these tele-rehab programs allow you to see them actually. You can do your jump and landing assessment. You can kind of, if they have a treadmill, you can have somebody video you while you're doing the treadmill. They can watch real time and give feedback and things like that. So the training staff's been awesome from that standpoint. A lot of our immediate post-surgical kids, we are outsourcing them to their physical therapists from whatever is the current city or town that they're in. And just staying in conversations and constant contact with those physical therapists to make sure that the student athletes are doing well, how they're progressing, what they think they're able to progress to next. So that way it's the trainers are always engaged with the student athlete. And they're also aware of, okay, you can start to do this. So now maybe strength and conditioning can contact you, and we can start to get you on a more of a strength program at home, from a body weight standpoint, and things like that. So it's been difficult for those return to play kids, because it's a hard time already, even when you're on campus. But Lindsay Ross Stewart's also been great. A lot of those return to play athletes have been in contact with her, and how do I get through the psychological aspect of it, especially when I don't have my support system physically around me. We're still socially there for you through obviously Zoom and things like that. So it's crazy time right now. That's for sure.
Collaboration is something I know that you're big on, and you just talked about it with the athletic training staff. You mentioned it with talking to other departments, other universities. How much has that helped, being able to kind of lean on your colleagues in other institutions, even maybe in pro sports, that are going through some of these same things that you're going through and your staff is going through?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the biggest thing, just from our staff alone over the last couple of years, we've done a really good job of creating these repeatable processes. So it's kind of built-in auditing process, with every single return to play case that we get, or just training our teams in general. Those repeatable processes make it significantly easier to kind of adapt to adversity, regardless of the situation with the injury of the student athlete or the sport or whatever it is. So that's made that transition to this kind of tele rehab a little bit easier, because you've already got so many protocols put in place that it's a lot easier to kind of just continue to find that roadmap, because it's already been laid, for you. In terms of communicating with other schools, that's been big right now, because some schools have a lot of resources, some have no resources, and even those, from a professional organization standpoint, you're still not able to be with that direct unit, that you typically would, that physical therapist, that orthopedic surgeon, from overseas sports, their physiotherapists and things like that. You're still not in physical contact with them. They're not taking you through your rehab programs. So everyone's kind of on that same level playing field right now. So yeah, everyone is, we've spoken to so many different universities and professional organizations and consultants over the last, couple of weeks here, just to try to get a gauge on, what's worked for you so far and what hasn't, and kind of learn from their failures, and same thing, kind of going back and forth on what's worked for us and what hasn't worked so far. And, I think that's the cool thing right now in both the athletic training and strength and conditioning fields, is we're really learning from each other. People are sharing a lot of information, sharing their infrastructure, sharing their programs, and helping each other out. Honestly, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is, if something's worked for us, that's another approach that a school, can use if something hasn't worked for them, or if something hasn't worked for us, and we hear something that has been successful at other universities. That's an awesome approach for us to now try and, again, make sure we're putting the athlete in the most advantageous position right now.
You bring up a good point, and something I wanted to touch on, but something that you and your staff, from your assistants all the way down to interns, graduate assistants, something that's been big and important for you is continuing education.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that is big for you when you're in school and in person. Has that been able to continue as we've gone through this new process?
Yeah, I mean, that's something, you're always, you try to go to as many conferences and clinics and seminars that you possibly can. When you're in school session and things like that, and it's a normal semester, it's a lot more difficult to obviously leave for extended periods of time for those conferences. And, they honestly always tend to be around May and June, anyways. So we've kind of been used to, whether it be weekly or a few times a month, we already have kind of set up, pretty good protocols where we do Zoom, roundtables with other universities, and typically it's per topic. So we might contact the university and say, hey, we want to talk about return to play. And that's all you talk about. And you just kind of roundtable ideas for, an hour or so. Or it could be, okay, here's speed development or energy system development. So we've already kind of had that in place. And now all of a sudden, the nice thing is, that network wasn't necessarily as big. Now that network of universities is massive. We had one last week on energy system development. I think it was like 20 plus universities that were on that call. That Zoom call. So you're getting a lot of good conversation. You get a lot of different scenarios and situations. And, And, that's been huge for us right now because it keeps us engaged and active. Because you can only read so much research, especially when you're at home and you're not training athletes on top of it. So to have those Zoom conversations and get good dialogue going has been awesome. There's been in our field, a lot of really good free like webinars or conferences, and or the registration fee goes towards, some kind of not-for-profit or something like that to kind of help COVID patients and things. So that's been awesome. There's unlimited amounts of continuing education right now. And that's been the one positive, I think, kind of coming away from out of this whole situation is there's so much access to so many things that typically we probably wouldn't have access to right now, given the circumstances. That's allowed us to build bigger networks and talk to more universities, talk to more colleagues and learn a lot more. And, my staff stays pretty engaged, with Zoom conversations with each other and sharing ideas back and forth. We use our OneDrive, we use the Microsoft, 365 has been great to share documents, share files, continuously communicate, as if we were in the office, and try to keep that structure that we had when we were in the office, for 10, 12 hours a day, try to keep that as close as we possibly can. Obviously with, the kids honestly dictate our schedule for the most part, but, that's been the biggest part is what can we, what do we have control over right now? Because there are so many things that we don't have control over. Continuing education is something we have complete control over. There's no excuse not to do it right now. There's so many free things or discounted online courses or certifications you can take. So we're trying to take advantage of that as much as we can.
Mark Jamison with us here on the Isolation Conversation. And Mark, how about for you personally? You've already mentioned it that your job is one where you enjoy being face to face with the student athletes. Obviously, too, I know you're a sports fan. There's no sports for us sports fans. So how has that been for you personally, and how has it been adjusting to life at home with your family as well?
It's been something. I think the not having sports is tough. We're still staying as engaged and active with our student athletes as we possibly can, and constant contact or communication with them and trying to help them through whatever training that they can possibly do at this point in time. But the thing we almost got the most joy out of with our job is not just the training in the weight room side. It was watching them actually, translate whatever was, that speed improvement they had, that power, that strength improvement, to see that translate to their sport. That was what, we got the most enjoyment out of was watching them play their sport and appreciating everything they do and to see that kind of, come to fruition on the court of the field or wherever they compete. So that's been tough. There's obviously on ESPN and stuff, they're replaying a lot of old games and stuff. So that's on. But yeah, not having sports has been tough. My 4-year-old is kind of getting into soccer right now. So I put a soccer net up and we're kicking goals and working on that kind of stuff. I've gotten really good at Little Tykes basketball in the basement. I'm a pretty good shot now from there. So I'll have to tell Bronny about that. But yeah, it's, my wife works in university and she's obviously really busy, in what she's doing. And so it's trying as much as we can to create some kind of schedule, okay, here's when I'll do the daycare hours and here's when you'll work and switch back and forth and working around different Zoom conversations and meetings that we have to have. But yeah, if kids are having a bad day, you gotta, care for them as much as you can. It's honestly, our 1-year-old is at that point where he's super fun right now. He's breaking everything. He's just sprinting upstairs. He's climbing over everything and we're trying to barricade him in a certain area and he's finding ways out. He's super fun right now. So he keeps you busy, keeps you active. And it's a good excuse, I think, to, not only hang out with the family, but to get out and be active with them too. So they're getting out probably, in nature more than they've ever gotten before, just because usually you're in home daycare, you're at preschool or whatever it is. And now you can be outside quite a bit and play and have fun.
Well, Mark, I appreciate you taking some time today to chat with us and fill us in. And boy, I look forward to the time that you and I will be back together face to face in the office again.
I know I'm hoping the barbers open up soon because I'm gonna have a mullet the next time I see you if they don't.
I do not have that problem.
I know you don't. I'm working on the Joe Pott beard though.
All right. Okay.
We'll
I
see
appreciate it.
couple weeks gets me there.
Well, Mark, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.